Yes. Okay. Awesome. This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD via Zoom Marina Kostina. She is the author of 52 Pieces Manual of Light to Survive the Abyss of Trauma. Welcome, Marina. How are you today?
Thank you so much. I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good, good, good. Well, I'm so happy to hear you speaking so clearly because I read a lot of your book, and at one point your jaw was not even functioning because of the skydiving accident. Could you give us a brief account of that accident and what happened afterwards, just to give a little background for our listeners?
Absolutely. A year ago on Father's Day, I went skydiving and I was doing a tandem jump with an instructor. And when we were, the parachute opened, but the wind kind of got caught in the parachute and we fell down. I fell down first. She fell on top of me. And I ended up being resuscitated several days in a coma-like state where I was not here, not there. And it resulted in 52 broken bones, 10 on my body and 42 on my face. And my jaw was broken in 7 places, and I had 7 reconstructive surgeries. So, to be honest with you, this entire year, I spent not talking, not eating any solid foods. So it's been quite a journey. And so far, I had 10 reconstructive surgeries.
How long has it been since you were able to speak again?
Well, I mean, I could speak a little bit, but it was really, really difficult. So I think that fully, I just went to a conference a couple of weeks ago, and I was joking that in 3 days I talked more than the entire year. So uh, yeah, so I'm getting better. I do exercises, and that's why I still have a photo instead of a video because I'm still swelling from all of the surgeries, but things are looking up, and I have wonderful doctors. So
Mhm. Yeah, it must cost a fortune for for all that medical care, but your book indicates how wonderful the doctors are. Um, and how could you tell us a little bit about what it was like, your four circles of hell and the three spheres of heaven?
yes, well, when I was unconscious, I really did not have this beautiful experience that most people describe when they are, near death experience. I actually had a very difficult experience. I felt that I was covered by lava of linoleum, and I couldn't find myself. I couldn't identify myself in that kind of melted rubber. So that was very, very suffocating experience. And during this recovery time, I went through a lot of difficulties, of course, pain. I was unable to move for 2.5 weeks completely and couldn't take any water inside. So I felt like I was turning into a rock. There was also a sense of betrayal from God, from the world. I'm a good person. I have a practice where I help people. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm an energy healing practitioner. And I couldn't understand why such a horrible thing could happen to me because, I don't do anything bad to people. On the contrary, all day long, I help out. So that was another. And I will be honest with you, I still have those moments where I don't understand where it happens and I get angry with the unfairness of the world. I think that's a common trend for us. But all of these dramatic experiences really helped me understand my clients in so many ways. I was bald, I was mute. At some point, I had my eyes stitched so I couldn't see. So I experienced what it is to be blind. All of the things that people go through, pretty much, I had an opportunity to experience.
When you were injured, you described most of the injuries in your face, but however, what about your the rest of your body? That was a pretty significant accident. How were the other parts of your body injured, if you don't mind describing some of it?
Of course not. Yes, and I had significant injuries on my body too. I had two vertebrae fractured. I had to wear a neck brace for many, 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 many weeks. I had a broken hip, and I was afraid that I was told that I might walk in with some walking aid, but in 3 months after that accident, I was already teaching yoga and Zumba. I had two broken ribs, which made absolutely impossible to breathe. We don't realize that, when we breathe, we don't think about it, what a luxury it is to breathe, because I also was trached 2 times. So um, I had a tube in my throat, and I also broke my arm. So I had a lot of ammunition on me at some point. I had a feeding tube that was very, very long, and I always compare it like to anaconda inside of my stomach. It was most doctors that worked with me, they are in the profession for 40 years. They were telling me this is as bad as it can get, and
Mm.
that they've never seen somebody survive this type of accident.
Mm. I guess that the other injuries they were hard to heal, but the reconstructive surgeries for your face, those were the most harrowing, and it was just so delicate and took so long and so many. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, no, you go ahead. What did you want to say?
Yes, 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 of course. Yes. The body somehow, I felt like the body I had more control over. Face I cannot fix. I need somebody else to do that, right? And so I got lucky, and I mean, I don't think it's just luck. There is a lot of um, energetic shifting that's been
Mhm.
happening in my life. And that the right doctors were at the right time, and my journey is not over, but I'm already looking for me, and I know I'm gonna get to the point where I'm gonna start liking myself again. But the body, I felt like I had more control over, so I just pushed through in the hospital. I pretty much forced everybody to get me up, and at least to sit for 8, 9 hours when I couldn't move. And then as soon as I could move, I made it a goal to walk in the hospital back and forth, because there's not much room, but for
Mhm.
an hour. And when I was out of the hospital, I really was very diligent about walking several miles every single day, even in the rain. So I think that's why I got myself breathing better, and everything healed much faster.
Right, right. And it seems as if you were practicing yoga before the accident, so likely you were in pretty good shape, and that probably helped you as well.
To be honest with you, I was in the best shape of my life before the accident. I was studying kung fu. I did yoga. I taught yoga at the gym. I taught Zumba in the gym. I took dance classes. I was very, very active and in a great shape. So of course it did help. I think psychological, energetic, and physical health that I was practicing for many, many years. That's what made me survive this.
Mhm. So you were active in teaching exercise classes before the accident. So what was your other work before your skydiving accident, and how did that work, do you think, affect your survival?
Well, I have a center here in Chicago in Ravenswood. It's called Ravenous for Life Healing Center. And it's a center. where I have several other practitioners, but I mainly focus on hypnotherapy for addictions, for trauma, and I also do a lot of sound healing and energy healing. And I always believed in these modalities, but I think that through this accident, I really lived these modalities. And I think that thanks to that, to hypnotherapy and energy work, that so many miracles were created. And I had a lot of PTSD symptoms and reactions. I had panic attack, anxiety that I had to run out of the house. I was claustrophobic in my own body because imagine I was wearing a neck brace and my teeth were wired and I had all of these tubes in me and it was very, very scary. And I worked with my teacher because even though I'm a hypnotherapist myself, sometimes we need others to help us, right? I talked with my teacher, Freddie Jacqueline from London, and um, Ines Simpson from Canada. These are my two teachers in hypnosis. They really got me out of this, and I really don't have any fear. I started driving after 2 months uh, of this terrible experience. Many people don't drive ever after accidents like this. So I think that these modalities really helped me, and I now believe in them not just on a like some sort of intellectual level, but I lived through them. So now I really know that this works.
When your doctors saw how fast you healed, what did they say about that?
Well, to be honest with you, I was told that this whole process is going to take multiple years because a regular person has a reconstructive surgery that lasts like 10 plus hours once every 6 months, right? But imagine I had 10 surgeries that were very major surgeries in 1 year. So I think even my doctors didn't expect such frequency and that I would bounce back um, between them
Mhm.
so fast, you know.
Well, several spiritual things happened to you after the accident. First of all, the rescue team did not know who you were, and they called you Magenta Doe. And then, have you ever discovered why they chose the name Magenta when magenta happens to be your favorite color?
I have no idea. It was very interesting, and I just learned about it many months after the accident. When I went back to the notes of the doctors, they referred to me not like Jane Doe, um, but Magenta Doe. And magenta is my favorite color. It is the color of my company. It's my brand, and it also has a lot of spiritual meaning. Colors also have some meaning, and I think that it was very interesting. No, I never found out why. I never knew who, but I found that as an interesting coincidence, which I had a lot of those during my recovery process, a lot of magical coincidences.
When you said that magenta is a spiritual color, in what ways is it spiritual? And also, were you wearing magenta when you had the accident?
No, I did not wear magenta, and magenta is often associated with the seventh chakra, which is an energetic center for those who don't know in our body, and it's a center of connecting to something higher than yourself, to your divine, to God, whatever you believe in. But that is a portal to from the 3D physical world to the world of quantum or whatever that is the terminology that is more appropriate for you, but that lies beyond the physics, that is a metaphysical place.
Mhm.
So I believe that all of this is very symbolic.
Well, you spoke of a couple of magical experiences. Let's talk first about your grandma and how she seemed to visit you as a cardinal.
Yeah, it's very interesting because my grandmother was very, very close to me, and I felt very connected to her. And I know that very many people associate cardinal birds with the souls of the dead. And my mom and I will always felt like this is our my grandmother, her mother. And when I was in the hospital, there was a lot of cardinals, and they really literally talked to me. They were behind the window. Every time I would be rolled out in a wheelchair, for lunch. Well, my lunch was liquid, but outside to get some sun. There was the whole nest of cardinals. Then after the surgeries, initial surgeries, when I went home, every time I would feel very dark and have bad thoughts, I would look outside of the window and be cardinal. So cardinal would really be there during the winter, during the fall, all of the 4 seasons that I went through this difficult recovery. They
Mm.
were always there.
That is unusual, but maybe we did have a warmer than usual winter, but usually cardinals leave in the dead of winter when it's the coldest, and by the time they return, it might still be cold, but once they return, it's a sign that things are going to be getting warmer.
I didn't know that, but the Cardinals won all seasons.
What, if you don't mind, what neighborhood were you in? What if like what neighborhood was the hospital that
The
you were
hospital
in?
was in Wisconsin. I had
Ah,
a skydiving accident in Wisconsin, so
mhm,
that's an interesting. Yeah, it's not that far from here, but like 2 hours away from Chicago.
mhm.
And yeah, so yes, those are the coincidences that are not just by chance, I believe. There is magic to that.
Let's talk about that Fred person that seemed to come into your life, and then also his connection with the Archangel Metatron.
Yes, it's very interesting. I had a really several really interesting experiences that before, with all of my spiritual openness, I really didn't experience them before. And I was laying in the hospital, and I was all wired and I couldn't talk. And I think it was like third day maybe when I got back to consciousness. So I didn't really pick up anybody's phone calls, especially if I didn't know the answer. And there was a phone call, and I didn't recognize the answer, but I felt like I needed to answer. And it was really hard to talk, but I answered, and there was a gentleman who wanted a session. And I told him that I have other practitioners who can give him the session because I just had an accident and it might take a long time. And he said, "It's okay, I'm gonna wait for you." And then when I was out of the hospital, he called me right away, like as if he knew. And he said, "Well, I want to come and see you." And I started seeing clients, in mask. I was a mask the whole year. And he came, and I just felt so familiar, like I know this gentleman. And he looked at me and he said, "You know who I am?" And I said, "No, I don't." He's like, "Come on, you know who I am. Let's say it together." And we said it together. And I said, "Archangel Metatron." And to be honest with you, I didn't know that Archangel before. Like I knew Michael, Raphael, right? But mm, I didn't know about the Metatron. And then I started reading about him. And during my recovery, especially during the mm, deep fall and winter, when I had really dark thoughts, because I was told that I would never be beautiful, I would never be normal again, whatever normal. It was a really tough time. And every time I would have these bad thoughts, he would call me and he would talk to me, and then he would speak some weird language, like making a prayer for me in some strange voice. And then when I started getting better, I tried to connect with him, but he disappeared. So that is kind of an interesting, uh, whatever that is. I felt that it was something magical and not from necessarily this physical world.
When you did your research on the Metatron, what was what is Metatron's responsibility?
Well, Metatron is really a protector, and he protects from all of the dark energies. And I honestly feel like I had a lot of death around me around the time of the accident. There was a lot of phone calls that I got with threats, and I felt that something was about to happen. Like there was like some weird negative feeling, and I feel that um, that's what happened. And actually, it was interesting because maybe 2 months ago, I was doing a session because I'm always working on myself, right? Not only medically, but energetically, spiritually, and I do a lot of hypnosis. And I was working with a shaman online, and he was from Siberia. He didn't know about this experience and anything. And then he said, "Oh, you have two archangels by your side, and one of them is Metatron." So that's kind of an interesting. And I never really connected with archangels before this accident, but this is something that I'm exploring more now.
Well, evidently, what Fred told you, right, was that they've always been there, but you haven't really noticed them, or did they come on board after the accident?
Yes, and I worked a lot with lots of very powerful healers all over the world. I studied in Siberia, Mexico, and went to Bali to a very powerful healer. And all of the healers all over the world always told me that I have a very strong protection, the army of angels and archangels. And I think they were always there. And sometimes I would feel them, especially during my energy sessions. But I think after the accident, I really started connecting to them more. And I started understanding that not only on the intellectual level, like I said, but really I'm living this magical experience. And as difficult as it is, and as dark as it can get, it also brings so much lightness and hope. And I don't know, some sort of a sense of reassurance that there's always somebody by your side.
Are you able to tell us what those phone calls and threats were about? Why would anybody want to threaten you?
Well, Russian, and there was a Russian-Ukrainian war. Even though I'm also Ukrainian, and I have Ukrainian blood, and I lived in this country for a long time. I had some texts, anonymous, and I don't know who that was. I Because of the type of profession that I do, I always attract interesting individuals. When you work for as a light worker, there's also a lot of darkness around you. But at that particular moment, I had a lot of those anonymous calls, and I just had that very negative, dark, depressed almost feeling. Well, because of the war, this is it's terrible when people die, and it's my country, these are my people, both Ukrainians and Russians. It was very, very difficult. And I just got back from Russia having a really good time. And then in a couple of weeks, the war started. So I think that's kind of like it was my time to go, I felt, but I was pretty much saved to, I guess, continue some work. And now my
Mhm.
work is, to help others in trauma.
During your work, do you help the Ukrainians? Is that was there anything that you did as volunteering and helping the Ukrainians? Might that have uh, led to some of the threats?
Maybe, I don't know from who. I really don't want to, I don't think it's even political. I think somebody who just didn't like me in general or was threatened by what I did use that as an excuse to, I help everybody, this is my goal. I don't, anybody who comes here, uh, I help. I did help free like events at the center for Ukrainian people, for Russian people. For me, these divisions are so political. They're not really human, and I really don't divide people like that. So I don't
Mm.
know who did
Oh,
that,
maybe
and I honestly don't want to, even put
no.
my energy into
I
that.
understand, but it was interesting that you pointed out that you kind of try to bring the Russians and the Ukrainians together, and for in your event. So that is an interesting. Who knows what that might have that might have led to because you're trying to make a bridge.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I learned one thing. The psyche of a human is an unknown territory even for the person themselves. So to try to really understand another human is a is a really wasted cause and of your energy. So somebody is ready to heal. I'm here, but I'm not here to solve the puzzles of their mind,
You
whatever is going on. Hmm.
you mentioned in the book that usually you could feel you will have a hunch of something that bad might happen and that you try to avoid it. But this time you had those hunches and you ignored them and the accident happened. Could you do you have any example of maybe something that happened before that you were able to avoid?
Well, to be honest with you, I live my life by intuition. I even run my business. If you ask me, do you have a 5-year business plan, whatever? No, I don't. And my business has been good to me, and I think I have a really beautiful business that I created. And so to be honest with you, I this is how I live. If I don't like, for example, if I feel some squeezing dark energy, I won't go out of the house. I always say I'm gonna stay at home. This is my fortress. I don't want to have an accident. I don't want to have a parking ticket, speeding ticket, or whatever. So that's how, I run retreats all over the world. And I remember once I had a group to go to Belize, but it was just not, it felt so forced. Like, I needed to do to put a lot of energy to make it happen. And then I called my group and I said, guys, I don't feel like going to Belize, even though that was planned. Why don't we go to Peru? Peru feels right. And amazingly, all of these people said, sure, no problem. And we had to Peru, went to Peru. It was a beautiful trip, very interesting, very magical. So that's how I live my life. And that day, there were lots of different, I was tired. I didn't have money to pay for this. My friend said he will pay for it. I said I was coming late. He said he's gonna wait for me. And then when I came in, I saw the instructor. She was a cute little girl. Felt so uncomfortable. I wanted like a strong guy next to me. Sorry, I mean, but for this kind of activities. And my friend said, "Oh, come on, girls' power." So I listened to that. And even now, I see that my last picture in front of the plane from which we were jumping, it had picture of skull on it. So the
Oh,
universe was yelling at me, but I was in this kind of semi-depressed state that I just decided that I'm not gonna listen to my intuition. I wanted adrenaline to, that's why we do all of these crazy activities. We do adrenaline
oh.
type of activities. We drink alcohol, we do drugs because we want to numb um, a part of us that is screaming at us, that is uncomfortable. And I'm a human, even though I have all of these tools, but sometimes I also make wrong decisions, and that was definitely that decision.
What about the instructor? Did she survive the accident? Do you know?
Yes, she did. She was hurt too, but I think her wounds were less severe because I think she landed on me.
Mm.
But because of legal issues, I'm not allowed to reach out to her or to get any information. So, but I know she was in the same hospital and was released earlier than me.
One final question, Marina. After all this, and you're writing the book, how have you changed? How has all this changed you from what you were before?
Yes, in a lot of ways, I think I'm a completely different person. Trauma does change you a lot. Unfortunately, often trauma defines people for the rest of their life. And I really, that's my goal, that it doesn't happen to me. And that's why I'm writing this book, so I can help others. It's not only about accidents, there are lots of different traumas. Trauma is our reaction to the situation that is painful or threatening in life. It's not necessarily the gravity of the situation, because some people survive really tough situations and they're okay, and some people seemingly not so significant things that they can chase them for the rest of their lives. So this book is not just my journey. I do describe it so people can relate to it on different levels, but it also has tools that I used for myself and I continue to use, and I use with my clients. So this is pretty much really a manual of what do you do when you feel dissociated from your body? What do you do when you feel suicidal? What do you do when you feel dark and insecure? All of those different modalities that I used, it's not only hypnotherapy, there's a lot of different tools. And that is my goal, to bring the light into the abyss of trauma.
Okay, Marina Kostina, thank you so much for joining us on WZRD. Again, please name your book, and how our listeners can contact you if they want to learn more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So the book is called 52 Pieces, and it is a manual of light to survive abyss of trauma, and it's available on Amazon. There is Kindle version, there is a paperback, and if you want to learn more, my website has all information. I'm very transparent on social media. So the website is ravenousLifeCenter.com. RavenousLifeCenter.com.
That's life as in LIFE,
Yeah.
Ravenous Life Center.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Marina Kostina, thank you so much for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.